Today, I want to talk about something that I'm not super proud of. Okay, picture this. It's the 5th grade for me. That was like 9 years ago. There's this kid in my class, and he was in and out of my class throughout all of my elementary school, actually. He had a speech impediment, so he didn't talk quite right, and it was, whatever. And he was bullied relentlessly, just all the time. Not usually physically, like nobody was hitting him or shoving him, but, people were constantly harassing him for saying anything, not just because of his voice, but they would make fun of the words that he said. And when I first met him, every time I try to talk to him, I try to be nice because, that's just what you do when you meet new people. I have no quarrel with this guy. Why would I bother being a jerk to him? But even though I tried to be nice, he would always lash out at me. That didn't make me want to be nice to him. So I wasn't nice to him when he did that all the time. I would think to myself, like, yeah, okay, this guy's a jerk. No wonder he gets treated like trash all the time. I told my mom about this, and she said to me, she was like, what if his home life isn't great? What if he's being a jerk because he's treated poorly by his parents or by his siblings at home? That didn't really make sense to me when I was a kid because I'd never met anybody who had a bad home life. All my friends had reasonably good upbringings, or at least I never saw anything bad going on. So that was a completely foreign concept to me. What I ended up doing was just kind of passively participating in the bullying that was going on. I wouldn't find this guy on purpose and go after him, or if there was some like rally up or whatever to go harass this kid, I wouldn't be all hype and be like, yeah, let's do it. But if my group bumped into his group and shots were fired, I'd fire some shots too. Now, just because I was following people does not excuse those actions at all. Just because I was insecure about fitting in, I don't deserve a free pass for being a jerk to this kid. That's just unacceptable. Just don't be a dick. Okay, so fast forward to I think it was the 6th grade, early 6th grade. We're on the playground, and I got some schmoo in my eye, like a piece of bark mulch or something, and it was, I couldn't see. So I walked up to one of the supervisors and I was like, yo, I got some schmoo in my eye. Can I have some help, please? And she was super nice. She took me to the office. She helped me rinse my eye out. She was making jokes with me. She was just so nice. She really cared about helping me and really cared about making my eye feel better, which was awesome, okay? And then I found out one way or another, just through conversation, that she was actually the mom of the guy at school that was getting bullied all the time. And then I realized this guy wasn't being treated poorly at home. His mom is this lovely woman who was helping me out, someone she'd never met before. I was just some kid. She volunteered to be on the parents committee. She volunteered to be a supervisor. She wants to help kids and she wants to look after kids. I think she had his little brother there with her. He was too young to go to school. She was nothing but nice to him. Sometimes parents are nice to other people but kind of mean to their kids. This didn't seem to be the case at all. And then I figured out that this kid, he was a jerk only because he was bullied relentlessly. He was so defensive all the time that he was just automatically a jerk unless you fit into his demographic or he wanted to be friends with you. That's terrible. That's awful that a kid feels that way. That a kid is so broken down that he's constantly defending himself for existing. It's not like he made a stupid decision and he has to keep justifying it. This thing was thrust on him and he just constantly had to back himself up for it because people were just being
freaking buttholes.
Now I felt so guilty when I realized this. I just felt terrible that I had been a part of this. I wasn't a major part, but I still had a hand in it. That's terrible. It's an awful thing. I distanced myself from him, and I distanced myself from the people who were really actively going after him. And anytime I saw this guy, I would just say a nice thing to him or a neutral thing to him. I wasn't pandering to him, but I was not being a dick. And it got me thinking about what my mom said about how he might have not had such a good home life and he was acting like a jerk because everyone at home was treating him like a jerk. Now that was obviously not true, but I think it is true for the people who were going after him, for the people who were bullying him. So you start with some kind of catalyst. This can be abuse, neglect, a number of terrible things. This leads to insecurity and a loss of control. These 3 things together lead to creating a bully. Now, bullies, they will go after disadvantaged kids, whether they have a disability or they're just the odd one out of the group. They might be chubby or something. You know, it's a kid who is vulnerable. It's a kid who's vulnerable going after another kid who's vulnerable. Bullies, they tend to be outspoken and they tend to be able to rally people up pretty well. They tend to be leaders, or more or less, almost like dictators. Because if you don't follow them, you end up like this kid. So they often attract other people to join them, and then that gets funneled into this anger and this terribleness that's going towards this disadvantaged kid. Now, if you're over here, if you're just a bystander, if you don't go with the bully, problem is you are now an outcast. You are now just as vulnerable and just as lonely as this kid. So what happens is the bully will come after you. So in order to keep the bully from coming after you, you go after the disadvantaged kid as well. And it creates this horrible funneling of toxicity and terribleness just towards one or a few kids. Not all the time, but sometimes this kid can grow up damaged. Then what happens is he will raise a kid or she will raise a kid, and their negativity will become some catalyst. And then that will lead their kid to insecurity and a loss of control. And then they become a bully. And then they find control by bullying a different kid. And then that kid could grow up and raise his own kid. And it's this terrible cycle. It's literally called the cycle of abuse. So please, if you have kids, don't be that catalyst for them. If you see that they are feeling insecure or out of control because of other factors, because they might already be bullied for whatever reason, you know, maybe if your kid's a disadvantaged kid, they are not defined by these superficial traits that they're getting bullied for, you know? Now, there are two main points behind sharing this story. The first one is that you always have the power to improve yourself. I was a chubby kid growing up. I was completely inathletic, completely self-conscious every single day about how chubby I was. And I wasn't even there are kids who were bigger than me. Really recently, within the last year, I found out that I could make a change. Just through a little bit of trial and error, I found out that that was in my control. And once it was in my control, I didn't feel bad about it anymore. Even if I get a little bit chubby now, it's like, okay, whatever, I know how to deal with it. You're always in control. You just have to look for it. The second thing, if you were one of the people that was bullying, you're not obligated to be that person for the rest of your life. Obviously, I wasn't. I was able to get out early because I had such a supportive household. There was nobody, I didn't have to deal with anything at home. If you are dealing with something at home, you can make a stand. You are in control of your entire life. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not. The actions of somebody from when they were in elementary or middle school, for the most part, should be ignored unless they were really, really bad. And as long as the person is acknowledging that their actions were terrible or whatever, and they have apologized and tried to make amends for it. I'm not perfect. I'm far from a perfect person, and so are most people. And I don't want this to be some hero story about how I learned some valuable lesson and became an amazing person, right? And I'm a real hero for not being a dick to this kid when that should have just been the thing I was doing out of the gate. Just remember that you can do whatever you set your mind to and whatever you feel determined enough to accomplish. I want to be this or I want to be that. Great. Follow those paths and pursue those things and be successful, because there's nothing that can stop you. I realized that video was kind of heavy, so here's a gif of some ducks.